Quierra here with Panthers insider Mike Kraft. Mike, tell us a little bit about the Panthers going into this draft and what they're looking for.
Well, the first thing the team had to do was turn the page from the Super Bowl.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you, losing's not easy, but losing that game can be very difficult. And thanks to head coach Ron Rivera and the direction he provided, he really turned the focus on to, okay, now what are we going to do, one, to get back to that level, and two, help this team get better. And this is a great opportunity to get better. When you look at the Panthers roster, they have the ability now, sitting at that 31 position in the first round, to just kick back at 30 and kick back and say, okay, who is the best available player at the best value? And when you watch what Dave Gettleman has done over the years, he stays true to that, and it's worked out.
Now, is there any player that the Panther fans should be looking for or adjusting to this new team that we should be excited about or leaning towards?
Well, it's hard to say at 30, but I tell you, one guy that I'm watching during this whole process is Braxton Miller from Ohio State. And you say, why? Because I know one of the key things that the Panthers draft picks have had over the past few years is character, great character. And I look at what he did at Ohio State. He accepted the position change to wide receiver, and he embraced it. And he worked hard to become a vital part of that offense, and without complaining and doing what he needs to do. And in the NFL, with only 53-man roster, you got to have guys who are willing to do a lot of different things. I even know down at the Pro Bowl, he was working on punt returns, something he's never done. But he wasn't afraid to. And that's the kind of character guy that you look for. And you look at last year's draft pick, Shaq Thompson. He wasn't a guy that was on anybody's radar outside of the organization, but he turned out to be a perfect fit because of his personality, his intelligence, and also his physical ability. And I think he's going to be a great ball player. And I kind of see some of the similar things in Braxton Miller.
Now, how does this team keep this momentum going? A lot of people would say that they're surprised at this 17-2 Panther team that wasn't even supposed to happen. So how do they continue with this winning circuit that they're on into this new season?
Well, it's all about attention to details, and the details in the NFL and any football team is fundamentals. And I know for a fact that as a group, the Panthers have a group of coaches who are some of the best teachers I've ever been around in all of my history in football. They teach, and they're not afraid to teach the little things that you think a guy comes in the NFL, he should be a finished product. No, that's not happening nowadays. And this coaching staff is not afraid to drop back and say, okay, this is a football, and teach from square one. And that's one of the real bases for this run that they had, because they're doing such a great job of coaching and teaching.
You keep mentioning player development. Gettleman has said this, that most of the time your answers to whatever position you need on your team is most likely already on your roster.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us a little bit about how the Panthers have started developing their players instead of being so quick to just cut them or trade them off, that they've stuck with their team and built them from the ground up.
Well, the thing that I've noticed since Dave Gettleman has been there is that he's always willing to use that all the way to the last roster spot to develop a young player, bring them into the system. And you look at some of the young guys who've come along in the last few years. I think about Brenton Burson and the ability to develop and patience. He was on the practice squad, and then he made it to the active roster. This last year went back to the practice squad, but he still is in the equation because, one, he's part of the system. I will say this, when I look at a lot of other organizations that don't have that type of consistency, they're turning their rosters over just 1 year after the next. They never will be able to develop that. And I'm so excited when you think about it. Panthers have their roster to the point where they won the NFC South 3 straight years, therefore made the playoffs, coming off an NFC championship, and building and doing it with a lot of players who are homegrown. And I think there is nothing better than that, because here again, you don't know what somebody else is teaching. When you draft a player and you bring him into your system and you develop him, you know exactly what he's learning and you know exactly what he can do. And it's a great place to be in.
Now, a lot of players when they come to Carolina, or if they're drafted by Carolina, they never want to leave. You know, this team has such a family atmosphere. You see it on TV, and you see it when they're amongst each other. Even when you're out, you hear fans just talking about how humble these guys are. What is so special about this team?
Well, it starts with the organization, and the organization starts with Mr. Richardson and his family. And I contend that he is one of the all-time givers, and he creates an environment where there is a number of key factors and common threads that hold his whole organization together. And it goes right from the front office down through the administration, into the football team, and even into the folks who are support staff and helping. Everybody feels like a valuable part of the organization, and you can't fake that. It's real. And you look at the past Super Bowl, for him to do what he did, taking families out there to the Super Bowl, and just everybody treated royally, treated first class. It's the type of thing that develops loyalty, and folks want to give back to those who've given to them. And it's just an awesome place to be. I can't think of anywhere else I would rather work.
Thank you.